get ready for this hashtag Blackout Virtual Masterclass. Just excited that all of you have taken the time on this wonderful Thursday afternoon to be part of this wonderful program. As you can tell, our amazing authors, speakers, and panelists are already here. But before we get started, the first thing I'd like everybody to do, if you're in near your chat, if you can let us know where you're from. We want to know exactly where you're from, so please represent. We want to know what state, we want to know what school. If you're part of the Divine Nine, we want to know what you represent. Make sure you represent right now in the chat box, just so we can get an idea of who is here. I know some people are going to start going in there right now, but we want to know where you're at, where you're coming from. For those that may not know who I am, my name is Dr. Joshua Fredenberg. Many of you see my posts all the time in the Facebook groups. I'm a national speaker, #1, author of 7 books, leadership, diversity, inclusion, and retention expert, and president of the Circle of Change Leadership Conference. For those of you who are not aware of the Circle of Change Leadership Conference, that is actually one of the sponsors of this event. And the Circle of Change Leadership Conference is a national conference that we host in New York and LA each year. And the whole purpose of the conference is to empower culturally diverse and first-generation students. #1, help them discover the leader from within. #2, develop the professional and leadership skills necessary to attain career leadership success. And then most importantly, to provide them with the inspiration, the confidence to go out there and leave their mark and make an impact in the world. Literally over the past 10 years, we reached 2,000 plus students from 159 different colleges, and they went on to do some incredible things. And so very honored to be a part of such an incredible organization. As many of you know, COVID-19 hit in March, and we pivoted very quickly because our national conference is normally in LA in the month of November. We realized that California was shutting it all down really quickly. And so we pivoted to become a virtual conference. And so we are actually going to be virtual this fall. The unique thing about being virtual is we're not just going to be 1 weekend, we're going to be 2 weekends. So it's going to be 6 days in November and December. Again, for students and first generation students all across the country. We're going to have more keynote speakers. We're going to have panelists from top tier organizations. We got empowerment breakout sessions. We have a lot of activities and interaction. And what I'm telling you, you've never seen a virtual conference like this, because what we're about to do is going to be very innovative and out the box. Also, it's very economical. And so whatever you do, I want to encourage you to get people to register, spread the word. Literally, our target audience is culturally diverse and first generation students. If there's any time we need more mentorship and more empowerment to go out there and make an impact, I think it's now. So make sure you help us spread the word, get the word out there, because we want to make sure that this thing is packed out this upcoming fall. And again, it's very reasonable. It is very reasonable, and there's a lot of benefits that come with it. One of the things that we're doing, we're going to have a social justice award as well. So we're giving out awards to students that are actively involved with social justice, civic engagement, as well as engaging their community. So I'm really excited about that as well. So just want y'all to check that out. Make sure you check it out today. Again, and make sure you spread the word. If you've got some students, sign them up. I'm telling you, it's definitely worth their while. Without further ado, our next sponsor is BLACKOUT and our wonderful, incredible leader, Kiana Stone. So Kiana, you take it away. Represent.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kiana Stone. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I serve as an associate director within the Department of Residential Education at DePaul University here in Chicago. I hope that you're protecting your peace on today. I hope that you are safe, staying cool, because it's warming up. I like to stay a nice caramel, so I will be in the house. So quarantine is working out this week perfectly for me. BLACKOUT started in 2012 with a group of housing professionals. At that time, I was serving on the leadership team for our Great Lakes Association of College and University Housing Officers, LCUHO, as the Contemporary Issues Chair for our first president of color, woman of color, let me specify, Lisa Ortiz. And her focus was looking at the recruitment and retention of Black professionals and professionals of color to the housing profession. And BLACKOUT came out of that, as there were 4 Black graduate students that wanted folks to know that they were here and that they were learning, leading, and serving. And what we were talking about, we realized translated across all of higher ed, all of student affairs. And now we have this platform where we can be found on Facebook, We have our Twitter handle, and we've created some mentoring programs and some other opportunities for virtual meetups and really professional development. Because as we know, we love our professional associations, but unfortunately, they sometimes cost money. And not all of us are blessed with professional development funds. And so this is another outlet and resource for folks to get mentored, to be supported, get the advice they need as we navigate what it means to be Black in the Ivory. One other thing that I want to plug, as that village is large, what birthed from that, from some of the leaders with BLKSAP, we started a podcast. Myself, along with 6 other colleagues, we've recently launched a podcast, The Meeting After the Meeting. You can find us on all major podcast outlets. And so we would love your support. We would love for you to shoot us some questions to tackle. We recently just did our Sister Circle episode. And we have a new episode coming this Monday. So while you're enjoying your vacation, we hope that we can give you some time to tune in and check us out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kiana. Make sure you support her. Make sure you support the podcast and all the wonderful things that BLKSAP is doing, as well as being a leader in this book as well. So we're so excited now because we're getting ready to get into the discussion. Again, I think it's going to be powerful. We had a meeting this week. It was powerful in our first conversation. I know this is going to be powerful, and I know that all of you are going to be very empowered. But before we get started, we think it's only right to introduce our wonderful speakers and panelists and authors. And so our first one is LaToya Renee Robertson, and I'm going to let LaToya introduce herself and let you all get a little more acclimated to who she is.
Hello, everyone. I'm LaToya Renee Robertson. I'm a speaker, author, and consultant. Much of my work has been with first-year students in a college setting. I also do corporate trainings as well. And my PhD is currently in implicit bias, specifically the impact of implicit racial bias. And my chapter in the book is chapter 5, which is merging perception with reality. And I talk a little bit about how going above and beyond while trying to meet the needs of my students was reprimanded, and how when I stopped sharing that so much, my supervisors, they stopped reprimanding me just as much, even though I was doing the same amount of work. So I was reprimanded for doing the work that I was called to do, that I was asked to do, and that was necessary. So I talked a little bit about that and how I merged their perception with reality and how I made that work for myself.
Awesome. Y'all give it up for LaToya. We're so excited to have LaToya here today. Welcome, LaToya. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Our next wonderful author, speaker, panelist, my brother, Phi Beta Sigma, represent. Give it up for Dr. Zach Shirley.
What's up, everybody? My name is Zach Shirley. My pronouns are he, him, his. I currently serve as the director for the Center for Fraternity and Sorority Life at the University of North Texas. I have worked in higher education for approximately 15 years in primarily fraternity and sorority life offices. So I started from the bottom and I worked my way up, and now I run that thing. And so I'm the type of person, those of you who know me on this call, know I give you with the rah-rah the real. My chapter in the book is Personal Storytelling, a tool to counter institutional racism. And I co-authored this chapter with 2 other colleagues, Dr. Patience Bryant, who serves as the director for student conduct at an institution in California, member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and my fraternity brother, Dr. Anthony Walker, who works at Tarrant County Community College. And so we really looked at our chapter as examining privilege and how we utilize each level of privilege to break down institutional racism. And we looked at it from Anthony's perspective as a heterosexual white male, my perspective as a Black male, but who is openly homosexual, and then Dr. Bryant's perspective as a Black cis woman, and how each of our stories in the academy navigated how we made it to where we are and how people perceive us in our roles. And so utilizing those different perspectives, we hope to provide everyone with that opportunity to see basically through the lens of individuals who have the utmost level of privilege, which is my brother, Dr. Walker, as a heterosexual white male, me in the middle, but also opening up the fact that, yes, even as a Black male, a gay Black male, I do have privilege, and I need to address that and examine that. And then Dr. Bryant's perspective, very educated, very learned individual, very professional, but people look at her and they're like, "Oh, are you the admin of the office?" And she has a whole PhD. I earned my doctorate of education from the University of North Texas in 2014 in higher education. And a lot of my research centers around mentorship programs as well as the fraternity and sorority experience. So I'm happy to be here with you all today.
So give it up for Dr. Shirley. Awesome, awesome. Our next wonderful author today, we've already spoke with her beforehand, Miss Kiana Stone. Welcome, Kiana. Anything else you want to say to the audience and let them know about?
All right. So I want to say a quick shout out since the Blue and White family is what represented. I want to
yes,
also
indeed.
shout out my lovely, devastating divas of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I also would be remiss. We have what I call my Ball State 4. They're now alumni now of Ball State, but we're also the co-creators of BLACKOUT. Currently, BLACKOUT is co-administrated, facilitated by myself and Nikhil Burrell. Nikhil is down in Mississippi. She couldn't be with us here today. She's also a soror of mine. And so I'm my mentee and colleague, sister friend. And so I definitely want to give a shout out to her as well. She couldn't join us on today, but has been very instrumental in helping us get to where we are, as well as, helping the book come to fruition.
Awesome. Give it up for Kiana. We love it, Kiana. We love it. You love it. Our next wonderful panelist, author, speaker, scholar, all those wonderful things. Get up for Marcellus Braxton. What's up, Marcellus? Represent.
What's up, y'all? I don't even know how I got on this panel because all these other folks are really great, but I hope I can do it justice. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am the Assistant Dean of Students at Capital Law School in Columbus, Ohio, and I also do diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting work. So I specialize in anti-racism work. So I do a 2-hour workshop to empower people because this takes actions and not words. So particularly if you have some white colleagues, they need to take this course. It's really important. My chapter was how to keep students of color on the inside, so cultural competency for student affairs professionals in the aftermath of the 2016 presidential election. And here we are. We have the 2020 election coming up, so it still applies. So we have to make sure we're showing up for folks of color, especially our Black folks. So thank y'all.
Awesome. Awesome. Welcome, Marcellus. Glad to have you. Our next panelist, I call her my sister. We go way back. I call her T.I. Tish Norman. Represent, Tish. How you doing?
Hey, everybody. See, he didn't give me all that fancy, smancy introduction. That's it, right? Let's go ahead and let me show. Since we're going there, let me just go ahead. Know what my pen, I'm taking notes with my pen and leaning on my pillow. Since we're going there. No, love, because I am seeing all of our amazing, almost 250 panelists who are checking in from coast to coast. We are happy that you are here with us. We are happy that you are shouting out your organizations that you love deep in your heart. We are happy that you are here. We are happy that you are a part of this conversation. And yes, as Josh said, and many others on this line, I am a speaker and consultant. It runs the gamut. When you want Tish Norman to come and speak on your campus, it's not going to be something like, it's going to put you to sleep. It's going to be something that makes you uncomfortable because I'm a disruptor. I don't know if you heard me. I'm a disruptor.
Come on, shake it up.
Right.
I love it.
And so what we do as educators, as scholars, as activists, as active people in our respective organizations is we step up to the plate and we try to muster up that courage and that deep-seated commitment that it takes to speak up when other people would be silent. Because I think that Anna Julia Cooper said it best, and she's one of the sheroes in my scholarly studies that said, when and where I enter, the entire race enters with me. And so we're happy you're here. We're happy you're part of the conversation. And Josh, I want to thank you so much. My chapter, my book, as I'm getting ready to turn it back over to him. my chapter, my book. I took a bit of a different perspective, guys. All right. There are some people on this call who are campus-based professionals, and then there are those of us who are non-campus-based professionals still within that higher ed family. And so I chose to kind of jump in and take a perspective from the fraternity and sorority life community. That's one of the organizations that keeps me real busy on campuses. And I thought, hey, your advisor for a D9 organization is not always going to be Black. How do we increase our cultural competency, our intercultural competency, and our intra-cultural competency as it relates to being able to better manage and support the organizations that we advise? And so I am a doctoral pursuant in Pan-African Studies. I am ABD. Y'all say a prayer for me in your quiet hour, all right? I am ABD, so I am planning to join the rest of my esteemed colleagues here, pray God, in the next, 12 to 18 months. So happy to be here, Josh. Hey, Toya. Hey, Kiana. Hey, Alton. Shout out to the ladies on the call.
Thank you so much, Chiz. Give it up for Chiz Norman. Represent. Our last author, without further ado, is Dr. Allison Smith. So amazing, so incredible. Dr. Smith, welcome. Take it away. Introduce yourself. It's on you.
Hello, everyone. I am what Tish referred to as one of those non-campus-based professionals, but I was campus-based for the previous 9 years before 2018. My chapter is FUBU, the necessity of organic safe spaces for Black women higher education administrators, created for us, by us. And this was around the time, Solange came out with that nice CD that's still good riding music right now. But one of the things is that it will kind of spur my chapter is that we already know that traditional higher education is pretty white. We don't put predominantly white institutions, but I'm in the field of the health promotion, collegiate recovery side, which is even whiter than the traditional fields of higher education. So one, I wanted to kind of investigate for myself and other Black women who are not in racialized or ethnic centered jobs on PWI campuses. A lot of times we see Black women, they're in places like diversity, equity, inclusion, women's centers, African American cultural center, Black student union, those types of offices. But for me, I was a person who in 9 years on the campus never directly serviced a Black student. And so what makes women like me stay at those jobs? And I was curious because I was at the point of leaving. And so I wondered if there were other Black women out there like me, and that's how I got here.
Awesome. We'll give it up for Dr. Smith. We're so excited to have you, so excited about all these authors, and y'all give a virtual chat and a virtual round of applause for all our wonderful authors and speakers and panelists. But we're not going to waste no time. We're getting ready to get right into it. I want to begin with this first question. As many of you know, as student affairs professionals, during this time, there's been a lot of variety of challenges that have happened for us on specific campuses, on how people respond to us, or just challenges in general, or not knowing how to respond to us and the challenge that we're facing as Blacks. And so the first question I want to ask my panel, and whoever wants to take it away, please feel free to go to work. The first question I want to know, what are the biggest challenges that people need to be aware of that we're facing right now within the workplace? When I'm talking about Black student affairs professionals, what are some of the greatest challenges that we're facing right now? So whoever wants to chime in, take it away.
Josh, I'll jump in. Oh, I'm sorry.
Allison, you go ahead, sister.
All right. So, so I think one of the things is dismissiveness. So the idea that you can love a certain institution, agency, organization, department, you can have so much reverence or love for institution, and there's a Black person on your campus or institution that can feel the complete opposite. And that even though it can be so great to you in a sense, that it's painful and hurtful to somebody else, even though you've never experienced it that way, that the dismissiveness of other experiences of Black people on your campus.
So to follow up behind Dr. Smith, and I mentioned this in our presidential town hall at the University of North Texas. I mentioned this in our divisional meeting with our vice president for student affairs at the University of North Texas. The concept of racial battle fatigue and how real that is for those of us who are doing this work in higher ed or on the scope of higher ed, typically being the ones that our Black identifying students come to, being the ones who, when situations like these arise, we are the individuals who are asked or tasked with figuring out the solution and needing our allies and accomplices to also do this work with us. It is almost like, all right, I'm out here seeing the slaughter of Black bodies continuously, what seems like weekly, and that's no joke, but then also Tim is asking me for this Excel spreadsheet. I don't really care about your Excel spreadsheet, Tim, because I'm living a life where I am seeing Black men, Black women, Black identifying individuals murdered. Our students are coming to us asking questions and needing guidance and feeling like their institution doesn't support them. And we also have to live our own personal lives. So I think that paying attention to the different layers that your staff and your colleagues are going through is very crucial to helping you understand this experience for us.
That's awesome. What do you think, Marcellus?
Yeah, I just want to follow Dr. Shirley, because I think the challenge we face is often representation, but also being brought to tables and being either the only one or one of few. But a lot of the problems that we're facing as Black professionals is that a lot of these tables are really toxic. And so if you're bringing us to a toxic table, what you're doing is you're harming us. And so just to tag on to what Dr. Shirley was saying, you can't just bring us to the table when there's a tragedy that happens, because you're telling us you don't really value us. You're telling us you aren't telling us you want to be proactive. You aren't telling us you care. So you're basically putting this insurmountable challenge in front of us and saying, address this as an individual for something that's been systemic for decades or even more than that.
That's great. That's great. That's great. What's your thought, Tish?
No, as Zach was talking, I think, you know, a way that a person feels welcome in your home is if you make them feel welcome in your home. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure everybody on this call and the 250 people who are listening, you have been in a space before where you didn't feel welcome. You didn't want to take your shoes off or put your feet up on the couch and relax. We have to think about the time that we spend in our workspace. Sometimes we spend more time at work than we do at home. We see the people we work with more than people we live with. And so is the environment welcoming, as Marcellus said? Is the environment one in which we can openly and speak freely? So I would agree with Allison with dismissiveness, but I would also add the element of obliviousness in there. I would also add the element, sometimes, I'm not going to just say white obliviousness, but I will say, well, the I didn't know factor or the white obliviousness of being in tune of the current events that's going on. As we mentioned on the call the other night, Zach said he got on, well, I think that was you, Dr. Shirley, said, you know, your work colleague said, so how was everybody's weekend? And you're like, my weekend was bad. And then, you know, the person's like, oh, well, what happened? You know, so it's the point of being in tune, and not just the fact that it's a current event, but being in tune about and being mindful. Can I just say this real quick and then I'll be quiet? So I am a budding yogi, everybody, all 250 people on the call. I'm a budding yogi. And one thing that the yoga practice teaches you and holistic wellness is mindfulness. Let's break mindfulness down. Mindfulness oftentimes is closing your eyes and hearing the sounds in the room, feeling the floor that you're sitting on, feeling a light against your face, smelling a scent in the, so it's being mindful of all that's going on around you. In the same way, that same type of mindfulness needs to be brought in to workspaces so that we're aware of the goings on in the particular cultures that make up our rainbow of colleagues. So it's the being aware of it. It's acknowledging it and being mindful that, yes, someone may be going through something that my world does not allow me to understand, but I'm mindful, I'm aware, and I'm willing to know and hear about it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I want to build on Tish, and I want to build on that. And one of the things that I talk about dealing with emotional intelligence, I talk about actually in the book, but there's a key aspect of the Daniel Goleman model that deals with being socially aware. And socially aware is really important because not only being aware of the people that you're around, but also being able to respond the right way and being aware of what I call the political and the organizational structural dynamics. And so what I mean by that, I think one of the challenges I think that comes up is people aren't socially aware enough when it comes to Black. So what I mean by that, I'll give an example. So we had a panel discussion that transpired a few weeks ago, and we were talking about a particular topic, and one of the panelists, which was a Black man, he said your net worth. I forgot. He said your net worth is determined by your network. And there's another quote that he talked about, and there was another person. Actually, it was a person of color, by the way, and they were on the panel. And instead of building upon it, like I agree with what the Black man has said, but I want to build on what that person has said. Instead of being aware that if this person disagrees with them, they're actually putting that person down. The person actually said, I totally disagree with this person, what they're saying, and I think we got to go a little step farther in what we're saying. They were actually saying the same thing, but the way in which the other person was communicating was devaluing the person that had the first point, when in reality, they were saying the same thing. And as I was watching, I was like, man, that's just like how a boardroom conversation goes sometimes. We're in a boardroom, and although they may be saying the same thing, because we didn't say it like you said it, oh, your voice doesn't really matter because you didn't say it how I said it, when in reality, we're saying the same exact thing. And I think that's really critical as it relates to people that are dealing with people from our community. It's being aware of your language, being socially aware of how you say things, and that you're not putting people down, but you're using language that doesn't put them down, but actually may build upon them or disagreeing with them in a positive way and not just a negative way, because those little disagreements or those little put downs, that can have a huge impact on decisions that I have found in my experiences moving forward. And I thought that was something I definitely wanted to bring up.
Josh, you must have read Terry Cruz's tweet this morning. Oh, you must have seen Mark Lamont Hill's commentary on Terry Crews. Like, here he goes again. I'm just saying, you don't have to undermine Blackness to substantiate its importance.
Say that again. Say that one more time.
Come on, T.I. Come on, T.I. Come on, T.I.
Hey, you don't have to undermine Blackness in order to substantiate that it's important. You don't have to say all lives matter, but in order to remember Black Lives Matter. No, like, what do we see? Saying all lives matter is like going to your best friend's birthday party and saying, wait a minute, everybody, I know it's his birthday, but I have a birthday too. It's not your party.
Tish, you might want to type that quote in the chat so everybody can have it.
Look, I'm about to tweet it out right now. I'm about to tweet that out right now. So if you follow BLKSAP for the BLKSAP episode, I'm about to tweet that out right now.
Drop it in the chat.
I want to move real quick. Yeah, drop it in the chat. I want to move to Latoya. Latoya, I know you have something to say about this. Latoya, take it away. I know you have something to say about the particular question.
Well, so one of the things that I want to mention, so we talked about mindfulness, we talked about dismissiveness, we talked about all of those things in toxicity. But one of the things that the listeners need to keep in mind also is representation is on campus. So think about who are the accessible African Americans that are on campus, and then think about what does the student population look like as well. So if I'm working on a campus, there's 4,000 students, 2,000 of them are African American, but there are only 3 accessible African American staff members or faculty members. Those 2,000 students will typically gravitate towards those accessible staff members. So not only are they doing the work that they're doing, but they're doing additional work. So when I was a housing professional, I ran my building, which had about 400 students. But on top of those 400 students, I was at every after school event. I was at every probate. I was at every initiation, at every ball game. And all of those students, they came to me no matter what the situation was, even though it was outside of my purview. So you have to be mindful of that, because there is not only battle fatigue when national events happen, but there is actual fatigue just in everyday activities because there's lack of representation on campus. And being mindful of that, not just to roam the environment, but also what are the resources on campus and how are those resources being used or drained?
Josh,
Awesome. That's awesome.
Josh, let me jump in
Yeah.
real quick on the back of that. So that was one of the things that came up for me as a person who did not do diversity related work on campus. When you do diversity related work on campus, there's a shield of protection that comes with when these things happen. The universities expect to put their diversity units out front. But what if you're the person that students connect with, but you work in housing? You're not really expected to say anything. I didn't work with that, but because I was part of the Black Faculty and Staff Caucus, I worked on scholars programs for our Black students, things like that. They began to form relationships with me and they were looking for me. I didn't have that same type of shield that the people in the diversity office had because that's not the work that I was doing. So one, looking at those people in other positions who don't, and I'm not faculty, so I didn't have tenure or anything like that. So the risk that we take as student affairs professionals, putting ourselves out there when we're standing up for students, when it literally can impact the job that we have, which puts us in a place to be able to advocate for them in the first place.
Great points. Great points. I want to move to the next question. Oh, someone has something to say? Did I miss someone? Nope. Okay. I want to move to this next question because, again, when you read the book, we not only talk about real challenges, but we also talk about real solutions. And we want to really focus on solutions and being solution focused as well. And so I want to first of all begin, with Blacks on different campuses. There's a variety of challenges that someone that listening right now is facing. Where, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of things that we can talk about. What are some strategies or what are some things that you've heard others use to deal with these different challenges that we're all facing on different campuses and universities all across the country? Some I like to call it some practical things that we can walk away with that can help us to dismantle some of the stuff we may be facing right now. And I'm gonna go with you, Dr. Shirley. Take it away. I'll let you begin this process. What are some stuff that we can systematically do right now to begin to help ourselves position ourselves for more success, but also to dismantle the racism and the variety of other things that we're facing on college campuses as well?
So, ironically, before this call, I had a phenomenal meeting, and all of my meetings with these individuals are phenomenal, but our Black Professionals Network at the University of North Texas. I am thankful to serve as the first vice president for the Black Professionals Network at UNT, and we have really galvanized that body in collaboration with our Black Faculty Network to work alongside our students to really start having conversations with cabinet members, with our university president, to be able to say, and also galvanizing our Black Alumni Network, because regardless, alumni are powerful and universities do not like bad press. So utilizing those bodies to be able to have conversations with individuals in administration to be able to say, these are the things that our students are going through, but these are also the things that our faculty, staff, and alumni are feeling. And so, I'm very thankful to that body. Even before I joined, Teresa Love was the president last year, Landon Ellison is the president this year, and really being able to utilize those group of individuals to say, all right, we are a minority serving institution. We were just identified as a Hispanic serving institution. However, the reflection of Black professionals, Black staff, Black faculty is not reflective of our student body. What are we going to do about that? And so I'm thankful for the fact that University of North Texas is allowing us to have these conversations, because I've worked at some institutions in the past where, all right, we've checked that box 10 years ago, but here we are in 2020, we're not talking about 2010. And I tell people all the time, don't go off of the past. Mm-hmm. We don't live there anymore. I've sold that building, baby. That building has been sold. So I don't need to worry about what happened 10 years ago, because that's under new management. Let's talk about here today. I also think that it's very important to, from an action item standpoint, empower our students. Yeah. Any of you on this call understand and probably know that our students feel like we have the majority of the power. They are the powerful ones. But it is on us as the professionals and the mentors to mold them to be able to have these conversations and make this actionable change, and also help them understand that the changes that you want to see may not happen in your 2 years remaining, but you can do something for the people who come after you. That is servant leadership. Right. And so if we get out of the mindset of, all right, this conversation I'm having now may not improve my current situation, but 5 years from now, another Black professional, another Black faculty member, another Black student has an improved environment, I have done my work.
That's great. That's great.
This job Because there's a question
Yes.
that might actually pertain to the question that you just posed from Andreas. Let's say you want to make that step in the direction for solutions. Let's say you want to incite the conversation, but your campus, your PWI campus, does not have a diversity, equity, and inclusion office.
Great.
I don't know about anybody else on this call, but I grew up going to a church sometimes that would have a tent revival.
Come on now with the tent revival.
In a tent. So you may not have that diversity, equity, inclusion office, right? But can the work still go forth if you don't have something established? Maybe that's something that, you know, Andreas posed there with that question. What do you do if your campus doesn't have an office?
And I think that that's good, because that's something that, you know, should be brought up to leadership to make space for that, because then you can create committees within your student affairs division or working with your other offices and campus partners. I think often, and Allison reminded me of this a little bit, of looking at our housing and res life folks, right? We are generalists, we are magic, but we can't do it all. And folks look to us all to do that often, but be in community. And I think that somebody said, Deanna said, nope, we tired. Absolutely. And so, you know, don't rely, because that's the next default office in a lot of ways. If there is some on-campus responsibility of, oh, well, housing and residence life, residential education can do that, let's pivot to them. No, that's not how that works. And this is where you have some of your offices that have some of those other charges, especially when it comes to student support services, to be able to come together to provide that support. And I think that that's where one of the first places that conversation should happen. What offices make the most sense to then start to have some cross collaboration to then push that agenda forward so that we can better support our students with marginalized identities.
What's an example of some of those offices?
I want to chime in. I would chime in on that, because I think it's really a leadership question. And when I was in undergrad, I remember I was in undergrad, and I remember that we didn't have an NAACP chapter on our campus. And I connected with someone at the NAACP Image Works. I was going to school in Los Angeles, and she wanted to bring the organization to our campus. And so by working with her, we were able to start the NAACP chapter on our campus. And so that chapter is still going on today. So case in point, I love what Dr. Shirley said in regards to empowering students. And I love what Kiana said, like, you know, other people have to take the initiative. Even if you're in financial aid, doesn't mean you can't take the initiative. And I think that's some of the things that we need to do moving forward as far as action items, like not waiting on someone else to create the table, but actually creating the table ourselves. So I think those are two great points as well. But any other practical stuff as well?
Go ahead.
So one of the other things, if you don't have a DEI office, one of the things you can do, because one, we know that takes time and resources for the institution to commit to that. If you do have a Black faculty and staff caucus or some kind of affinity group, getting involved with that and doing collective statements, or working to start one if you do not have one. So for me, when I was at LSU, we had the Black faculty and staff caucus, which is on its 35th year at this point. But one of the things it allows for a collective voice without singling out any individuals. So I'm in Baton Rouge. And so when the shooting of Alton Sterling happened, the university statement was very different from the Black faculty and staff caucus statement. Those types of things, and it pushed the leadership statement further, and then it brought additional conversations. The issue with the student from West Monroe who posted something, the N-word, he hates the N-word, and then LSU put out a statement. They were challenged by the Black Student Union, by the Black Faculty and Staff Caucus, and that student is no longer coming to LSU. Those types of things, even if we didn't have a chief diversity officer, but long before that position was created, they had the Black Faculty and Staff Caucus to lay the groundwork for some of those things. So if you're not there where your institution is ready to commit that kind of money, it doesn't take a lot for you all to get together, you and some other Black people on your campus at lunchtime, once a month, twice a month, or whatever you need to do to start building the groundwork for that position, to advocate for it.
And on top of that, what Dr. Allison said was, when you ask the question, take a moment and listen. So don't come to the table automatically with solutions, because what I've seen a lot happen on campuses is people who are not of color or not Black, when they step to the table, they already have their idea of what a solution is in mind. And when people say exactly what they need to create a solution, they say, no, I think you need this instead. Well, no, I asked for apples, don't give me oranges. So when you ask the question, listen, process that, and then act on it. But don't come to the table with solutions or pushing the solutions that were brought by the people who need the solution. Don't push that out of the way.
So,
Dr. Shirley, yeah, I'll start with you. Yeah.
We got a question from Nadine in the Q&A. What are some recommendations to support students taking part in Instagram campaigns, for example, Black at Insert College? University of North Texas just went through that like 3 weeks ago. If you look up hashtag Black at UNT, you'll see all of that. And so around that time was when we've had a number of our Black identifying student organizations release a list of demands for the university, and requiring, demanding, whatever adjective we want to use, our president to defund the police, create a standalone multicultural center, provide equity, diversity, and inclusion training for students, faculty, and staff, a number of different demands. And so, Nadine, what I would tell you is when we assumed the role as the executive board for the Black Professionals Network, automatically we were hit with these student concerns, these student demands, and we're like, y'all, what do we do? And so my advice on how you support those students is, number one, empower them and let them know that their message is important. Because there are going to be people who try to detract from that message. But help them understand that you got to keep at it. And if you have concerns, let your concerns be known. Number two, as I stated earlier, be very realistic with them that what you want to see as demands may not manifest themselves in the time that you are an undergraduate student at this institution. Helping them be very realistic about the fact that change is not instantaneous.
Yeah.
But it takes an amount of time to make any type of change. So for instance, they want a standalone multicultural center. Great. That's one of the things that our president said is coming. But it takes time to build a building. Right. It takes time to fund a building. You made this demand in June, you're not going to see it in December. And COVID is still very real. So like Tisha Cameron Martin said, she's still here. COVID is still here. So COVID ain't going nowhere no time soon.
Rona is here.
Here. Number three is understanding the fact that there needs to be a certain type of messaging that you put out and be consistent. Everybody needs to be on the same page. So the thing about us being advisors is that we advise. But the important thing about us advising our students, Nadine, and everybody else is the fact that we have to be the ones to help them keep that consistent messaging. They may be all up here. We gotta zone it down right here for them and keep them focused on that.
Yeah.
And encouragement as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Helping them also navigate. Oh, before I forget, helping them understand what the student code of conduct says. Because there may be verbiage in that code of conduct that hinders them from speaking a message. So what I mean by that is a number of student code of conduct says if a university official requests a meeting with you after so many times you deny the meeting, then it's a violation of the code of conduct. I've had students in the past say, we're not going to meet with anybody. Well, yeah, it says here in the code of conduct, if you don't meet with the president of the university, that could be a conduct violation. Are you ready for that? And then number three, well, no, I'm not on number three, probably on number 5, helping them identify other movements that have occurred previous to theirs.
Sure.
So Syracuse University, University of Cincinnati, Mizzou, all of those institutions and more have documented movements on social media and on the internet that students can look to for advice and guidance. They don't need to recreate the wheel. It's already out there.
Sure.
That's great. I know Marcellus has something to say. Marcellus, what do you want to say? I know you have something to say.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to get some practical steps for our Black supervisors and just supervisors in general. So I think when we're talking about practical steps, we got to be prepared as supervisors to address and call out and disrupt these isms and protect each other. because I'm a supervisor and I view that as a privilege. So I say as a supervisor, I'm a gatekeeper. So I feel like I have to protect the Black folks I supervise and keep out the people who are going to present harm to them. So for instance, when someone tries to increase their labor without paying them, I can step in and disrupt that and say, no, that's not what they're going to do. When they need someone to stand up for them, I can stand up for them, or advocate for them, I got to be there. Or when they try to gaslight that person I supervise, I have to step in and affirm their feelings. So I think there's a lot we can do as we step into that supervisory role to make sure that we're helping out Black folks in addition. So I just wanted to jump in with that.
It's awesome. And I wanted, there's a few things I wanted to say, and then we'll get to that question that LaToya just brought up. I think really quickly, if we're going to create change, I think it has to be courageous people. Again, I know we're courageous, but I mean, putting something on the line. That's what I want to say. But I think in being courageous, I think we need to be unified, because I think at some point when people are courageous, you not only need people on the bottom that are connected, but you need leadership, you need vice presidents, and you need people in power positions that are going to be willing to have your back behind closed doors. One of the concepts I talk about is sponsors, but we not only need people on a lower level. I'm not being negative in that sense, but people that are building their way up to the higher tier. We need people on all unified fronts that are doing their part to create change. Because I think we're going to create change, we need everyone unified and doing their part at their level. And the other thing I definitely want to say, and I'm really serious, is doing your part to make a difference. What I mean by that, maybe creating an extra opportunity for someone. One of the things, maybe going out of your way to hire someone, or maybe going out of your way on your campus to mentor someone and to bring people in. I think there's so many different ways in which people can make a difference. And I think a lot of times there's so many small or little things that we can do that can make a huge difference. For instance, when you're in a boardroom, making sure that you're allowing people to see the value in people at the table, the value of people at the board table or the executive meeting. And another thing I'm gonna shout out, and I know Tisha will agree with me on this, Black speakers. And I'm saying this because I'm a speaker. That's what I do full time. A lot of times I'll go to these student activity conferences and they'll say, oh, that's a Black speaker. They're a Black History Month speaker. And I think that is the most devaluing thing as a speaker ever, to say that only a speaker has the ability to be a Black History speaker. Why can't they be a Res Life? Why can't they be a political speaker? Why can't they be a leadership speaker? I'm not going to go into leadership because that's a whole nother discussion for another day. I may get to it later, but what I'm saying is, changing and shifting these things in different places, these minds and these biases that people have, I think will make a huge difference as well. But I think someone else has something to say, so I'm gonna keep my mouth shut because I'm supposed to be moderating.
Right, we got these questions that we definitely want to hit, and so I know LaToya has the next one in the queue that also kind of came up.
All right, Toya, take it away.
I'm trying to get back to the question. So the question is, I am the sole person in our pseudo diversity, equity, and inclusion office. I'm at a PWI and I'm a cisgender white woman. In all of our faculty and staff, we have 3 Black, Indigenous, people of color. I'm coming to the table with no solutions. How can I better serve my students?
I'll jump in. One of the things is advocate for resources to hire or to make that particular hire staff for the office. If it's a pseudo office, I think right now is the time to leverage everything currently that's going on and to make institutions put their money where their mouth is. If they say they put out these nice, pretty cute statements that we believe all of this, all these things, now it's time to put your money where your mouth is. One, we need to be sure that we're supporting our students and our staff and our faculty of color, but also inviting the 3 Black, Indigenous, people of color that you have, inviting them to the table to make sure that they're part of the conversation. If they have not been formally extended an invitation to participate, I would probably make that my first step to, 1, figure out what are their needs, because otherwise you're just shooting in the dark at this point.
It's a great point. Anybody else want to chime in on that question?
No,
Real quick.
Allison hit that on the head. John Maxwell talks often about everything rises and falls with leadership. So choosing those opportunities to shoot your shot will be important, and being able to spotlight your team and having those intentional conversations are definitely going to be key.
That's great. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're not going nowhere. The commercial break is just to bring you some updates. Don't go nowhere. We'll just bring you updates real quick as I put it on the PowerPoint. Stay with me, everyone. So again, I don't think questions have been a problem. Everybody's been asking questions. So continue to bring your questions. But I want to remind you all about the book. Each of us are authors behind the book, which is #Blackout. You can go online right now, #blackout.com, and you can order a copy today. I encourage you not only to get a copy for yourself, but I encourage you to buy one for someone in your organization, within your office, on your campus. I think it's just really essential so that people can begin to build their insight and understand the challenges and also see solutions to the challenges as well. In addition to that, as we said earlier, we're getting ready to do the Circle of Change Virtual Leadership Conference. So if you didn't hear about it earlier, we're doing it this fall. It's for culturally diverse and first generation students. Tish is actually one of our MCs and speakers. So make sure that you spread the word. Make sure you let people know about it. The next thing we want to make you aware of is the meeting after the meeting. This is by Kiana and her crew. They're doing the podcast platform. So make sure that you're aware of that. Make sure you're tuning in. Make sure you're supporting. They have some incredible people there. And I've had a chance to hear a little bit. It's amazing. So make sure you check it out if you haven't already. This is a big thing. I'm doing a called a RED Leadership Survey. RED stands for Retention, Engagement, and Development of Culturally Diverse Millennials and Gen Z. I have about 353 people that have done the survey, but I need more Black. So I'm asking you, if you were born from 1977 to 2010, if you can do this survey. It will only take you literally, I promise you, 3 to 5 minutes, but I would love if you could do that. You could just, put your phone up real quick to do that. I really want to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. And then again, and they're going to put in the chat box, as many of you know, all of us are speakers. All of us speak on campuses, consulting. And so if you're looking for a speaker, and we speak on a variety of different things, not just Black History Month, but we speak on a variety of different things. If you're interested in having us speak or do trainings, again, this is a way to reach out, bringing Black speakers to your campus. I'm gonna say it just like that, bringing Black speakers to your campus so your students can see an example. They're gonna put in the chat box right now. They have all our contact information as well as on LinkedIn. So if you wanna connect with us on LinkedIn, the LinkedIn information should be there as well. And the last thing I was thinking today, if you're doing virtual programming this fall or even in the spring, you could bring this virtual masterclass to your campus where our authors will be there to speak, talk about the book, and possibly say stuff that you won't say that I know my man Dr. Shirley is willing to say, willing to say the things that need to be said.
I'm here for the smoke. I want all the smoke. Call me Smokey the Bear.
Josh,
yes.
I'm asking you to put the QR code back up.
Oh, okay, I'll go back real quick. I'm sorry about that. There goes the QR code. So if you can do that, we're great.
It's cutting off.
It's cutting off.
It's cutting off. We can't see the whole QR code.
I'm sorry.
In the questions, there's a way to fix. You got to fix the presenter mode.
Okay, I'll be working on that. I'm coming back to because I don't want the technology to mess up. I'm gonna be working on that. Or I'll just put in the chat box with
I mean, you can work on that, brother, because we can answer the questions. This is nothing.
Yeah. So, but I do want to get this for next question. We're going to go to this next question, Dr. Shirley. We'll get back to questions. But I want to ask this question in regards to allyship, because there's some people on this call that may not be Black. And so I want to ask a simple question. What can they do to help us to eradicate change? And Dr. Shirley, you're on the screen, so take it away.
To help us do what? Ask that question.
What can allies do? Allyship. What can they do to help to eradicate the challenges that many Blacks are facing within student affairs?
Okay. One, I would say, show up and speak up. I mean, so years ago, when I received my doctorate, let me take that back. When I earned my doctorate, because some folks got honoraries. When I earned my doctorate, I was invited into rooms. And yes, Bonita, I'm glad you said that. We don't need allies, we need accomplices. So don't be an ally, because to me, an ally is someone who's like, okay, I'll passively support you, I'll be silent. Now I need you to be up here with me on the front lines. So I was saying, when I earned my doctorate, I was invited and let into rooms and onto tables that I never thought possible. But even still, there were some instances where I was not included into conversations. I had those accomplices, my white accomplices, who said, no, Dr. Shirley is an expert on this. Or no, Dr. Shirley probably knows better what we need to do than any of us white folks around this room. So being able to go into a space, even when Black people are not in there, and speaking to the needs of what we need as a community. Not saying that you need to fight all of our battles for us, but open up the space to where we are able to come in and explain what our needs are. Not ignoring the fact that there are things that Black folks need professionally, personally, as students. We need our accomplices to be able to say and have the courage to say, because, and I say courage because when you're someone with privilege, and that's male privilege, that's white privilege, that's college educated privilege, you don't want to get that up because it feels real good. But sometimes you have to put yourself out there on the line so that someone else can be able to come in and reap those benefits or have benefits provided to them as well. So,
yes.
So coming in with that courage and being able to say, all right, I got my privilege, but I see my Black sister, my Black brother over there hurting. What am I going to do to help them have the same amount of privilege that I had? It really starts with having that courage and being able to say, all right, I'm eating, I want you to eat too.
That's great. That's great. I think Marcellus has something to say.
Yeah, I just want to tag on to that real quick. So whether you use ally or accomplish, you have to think about what type of ally or accomplice you want to be. So we need people to think about social justice. We don't need people to be allies to a person. We don't need you to be an ally to a group. We need you to be an ally to these issues, to these isms, to the racism, the sexism, the homophobia. We need people to care about the system and dismantling it. So the way I look at it is you don't work over members of a group. You don't work for members of the group. You work with members of a group. And your job is to elevate them because they're leading the charge and you're the people who are supporting them. So we always have to keep that in mind.
That's great. What about you, Tish?
Man, you know what? I just need to tell everybody this, because I'm all about, when you're in your 40s, you're about people walking their walk, not just talking.
Say that.
Okay. So, I'm not trying to get followers. Don't nobody get it twisted. I'm not trying to get followers, but I just put on my Facebook and on my Instagram, and that's at Tish Norman on Facebook and at I am Tish Norman on Instagram. This quote that's called woke washing. Is anybody on here familiar with woke washing? Okay. Woke washing, like I said, I'm not trying to do this to get, follow me. Woke washing basically is a personification of what many of us are seeing companies right now all over the world releasing all these kind of statements about Black Lives Matter and this and that and this and that. Let me go ahead and break it down so y'all can see I'm reading it right from my phone. Woke washing right there. There's the quote right there. Y'all can see it. Woke washing is when a corporation, an institution, or an individual says or does something that signals their advocacy for a social cause, but also continues to cause harm and be vulnerable to cause harm to vulnerable communities. In this way, profit-driven companies prey on people's social awareness by cashing in on their idealism via progressive-oriented, purpose-driven marketing campaigns while deflecting questions about their own ethics or taking accountability of their own wrongdoings. So Delta, say all you want, Black Lives Matter. Visa, Nike, say all you want about Black Lives Matter, but let's see, Gucci, say all you want about Black Lives Matter, but let's see all of these people start to put Black bodies in these higher level decision-making, more visible, important decisions, positions within their company so that we can really see change. So this is the personification. Woke washing is personification of companies, corporations, and individuals and organizations actually not just talking the talk, but walking the talk. So if you want that quote, I did not post it. I did not make it up. I got it from Crystal Castleberry, and the actual quote, because you know, when you're in your doctor program, you learn to give the credit where the credit is due. And so this is from the
Cite your sources.
From the Slow Factory Foundation. So if you all want to look up woke washing, it's so important because we can tear down monuments. We can make flags, state flags. Come on, Mississippi. I saw somebody on here from Mississippi. We can have the flags change and do all these change the names of our dormitories, military bases, murals that are in colleges in the South that depict enslaved Africans in the field. Okay, I went to college in Kentucky. The Kentucky State song talks about how the darkies were warm and gay. No, we weren't warm and gay. We was mad as hell. We wasn't happy.
And we still mad as hell.
We still mad, exactly. So let's talk about actually walking the talk. And so, Shirley, you brought up a good comment about the courage. That can be translated into asserting yourself in those situations, asserting yourself and yes, having the courage to stand up and assert yourself, even if you're sweating under the arms, because you know you're that passionate, right, Kiana? You're that passionate about what you're saying, but it takes that kind of, at that moment, it takes that kind of assertiveness and courage to speak up and say those things where, yep, if you are the only, I saw a professional say they're one of 3 Black professionals on their campus. Oh gosh, I couldn't imagine. But it's those times that we have to say, I'm looking at the bigger picture and I'm gonna call these people who say that they are Black Lives Matter or that they are for equity, inclusion, access, and diversity, DEI and A. Let's go ahead and put your money where your mouth is. I don't even know if I answered your question, Josh.
I'm ready to go. Yeah, go, Kiana. Go. You go. It's on you.
This, 2 things. Because it's nothing more exhausting that takes the air out of the room when a situation has happened and the meeting is over, and then you hear the person who had power to be an ally say, oh, I guess I should have said something, huh? Or I have had to bring it to your attention. And then the next time happens and you didn't do action. You said that you were going to do better. And then here we are in the next meeting. That should have been at the top of the agenda. And you missed that moment. Or there was no follow-up email. Like, I shouldn't have to instruct you on what to do if you're taking that moment to serve as an ally, because you're worried about what capital you may lose by bringing something up or bringing something forward or addressing something that needs to be addressed. And we have not forgot about Brianna. I just want to put that out there. So yeah, take that.
I want to say something else. I want to jump on what you said, Kiana. I want to continue to build on what you just already started. I think it's our frat brother, Dr. Shirley from Kent State University. I think I saw one of his posts today. I believe in 125 years, he was the first Black VP ever at that university. I mean, let that sink in. Over 100 years, the first Black VP ever. I mean, I want y'all to let that sink in for 100+ years, the first Black VP ever in 2020. I just let that sink in real quick. And the reason I bring that up is because I think it's not enough just to expect Blacks to take on that initiative role. I think I'm using allies, but I think it's important that we push these leaders forward, push them to become leaders. I was at a Leadership Educators Institute several years ago, and I may be wrong in this quote, but this is what I believe I heard. And they said that 85% of leadership educators, and again, I could be wrong, but I believe this is what I heard, were either white or women. 85% of leadership educators were either white or women. Let that sink in for a moment. 85%. With all the master's degrees, with all the doctoral degrees, with all the Black excellence that we have, you have that few people in leadership. And so I just think that one of the things we need to do as far as helping out is pushing people in leadership positions, supporting people in leadership positions. And I'm going to say this, and I don't know if this is popular, but I'm going to go on and say it. But again, we're here. Why not? We're all family. Support Black businesses. I'm going to say that really clearly. On your campus, support Black businesses. If you want to support, I'm saying it, support Black businesses. Within corporate America, one of the things they talk about, they have diversity supplier chains because they support minority businesses. So support Black businesses, consultants, I'm going to say speakers, I'm going to say books, authors, vendors, I don't know, whatever they do, support. I think that's a huge impact as well. And I think that's a way that we can help our community as well. I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in, but I just had to say that because it was all.
I'll pop in on that supplier chain issue. That was one of the things that with the Black Faculty and Staff Caucus we raised at LSU was diversifying the supplier chain. We looked at issues that we wanted to tackle that we could get done. One of the things our state has what's called the Hudson list, and it's a list where you get special requirements for contracts. You get waived if you're a Black-owned, minority-owned, woman-owned, or veteran-owned business. Well, if you're looking to diversify your supplier chain, we have these big events on campus. For the Black Faculty and Staff Caucus, we only use Black vendors. But encouraging the local Black business chamber, those folks, helping them get registered in your state system. We literally walk with Black business owners in our city who do great work. They just were not in the state system. So literally it took us 20, 30 minutes to help get them set up in the system. Well, now they're eligible for state contracts that they had no idea about, that like all kinds of special requirements for bids and all that kind of thing were waiver, where normally you would need a bid, but you could spend up to $10,000 with them with no bid. So like, if you order promotional items, everybody has those same items they get. Why not get one from a Black vendor? They're getting the exact same items. Help those get registered in your campus's supply chain. That way you all on your campus, when you have budgets, when you're having programming, you can pick diverse suppliers on your own campus.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Let me just jump in real quick. Everybody on the call, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. That's the song I learned as a child. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. So it doesn't matter your color, right? So whatever color is on this call right now, you can go to Facebook, to Josh's point that he just brought up, Dr. Fredenberg. You can follow Blackout Week, July 1st through 7th, 2020. That's the name of the page on Facebook. Somebody can put that in the chat too. Blackout Week, July 1st through 7th, 2020. Many of you know the rapper and activist T.I. right here in the A started a blackout week a blackout day that was supposed to be only one day, and it morphed into something a little larger so that we could recycle our Black dollars. There is a fantastic group. This group is actually even reincarnating the Green Book. If you all are familiar with the movie Green Book, of course that came out of a real document, a book, like a little small book that was out many, many years ago when Black families began taking vacations and Black families began traveling and traversing throughout the United States. Where can we go eat? Where can we go stay? Where can we go to the beach? Where can we go? So it was a green book that had a list of Black-owned businesses, restaurants, bed and breakfast, so on and so forth. They are coming out, or have come out, I should say, with another quote unquote modern day green book. So the way we can do that, Josh, participate in Blackout Week. My car right now is at a Black mechanic, okay? So, there are ways that we can continue to support our communities with our dollars so that other people can see the trillions and trillions of dollars that circulate throughout the Black community can stay in our community. All right, I'm done.
And don't ask for the discounts. They got reward programs.
Right.
Come on, Kiara, come on.
Don't ask for the hookup.
They got
real quick. I'm gonna cut you off.
Sign up for those.
That's right.
But pay them what they're due. What they're due.
That's right.
Ooh, that's a good one. I can talk about that.
They know you broke, so we will work with you. We will work with your budgets. But don't come in asking for the discounts. Come in showing this is what I got. What can you do for me? If you can't do it for me, we know people. We can refer you on to the next person whose price point they can meet you.
That's great. That's great. Real quick, I'm going to move to Marcellus because I know Marcellus had said there's been some questions we wanted to talk about. And we are seeing your questions. Keep posting your questions. I think Dr. Shirley already said we're going to have a part 2. We're not in it yet, but we're going to have a part 2, y'all. And we're going to answer all these questions. So if you have more questions, put them in there. Through our Zoom account, we can save all the questions. We can come back for a part 2 and answer, because there's a lot of questions in there, but I know Marcellus wanted to answer one specifically. So Marcellus, take it away.
Okay, put me on the spot a little bit, but yeah. So the question we have is, what advice do you have for a new professional who wants to enact change at their institution but feels silenced or not in a position of power to enact true change? And I feel like that's an important one that we should probably just talk about. And so I think the number one thing for everybody is use your institution's words against them. So we all have this D&I statement that you see putting around, like they might not do anything about it, but you need to bring that up and say, hey, this is a statement that you put out there, and this applies to the entire institution. And so what you're doing is you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. What you're trying to do is do what the school says they're going to do. The other thing I think is find the people with influence and make sure you're partnering with them on programs and making sure that you're tagging them in, because you can go to an institution and with a couple weeks, you'll find out the people who have the influence, the people who will listen to them. And the other thing I say for new professionals is you might have limited time that you're going to be in that room where you get to actually voice your ideas. So make sure you have a specific plan, specific ideas, and also have a goal and a timeline too. Because the one thing that happens in higher ed all the time is if you don't have a timeline for when something's going to happen, it's going to be pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. So you need to say, here's the plan, here's the idea, here's what we're going to get to, and here's when we're going to get there. So I think that might be helpful. And so I wanted to know if any of my panelists also had some thoughts on that.
I do, because this recently came up. We have, and some of this has come from because of COVID. And so my staffers had a lot of questions, and, you know, this is unprecedented times and this times of uncertainty, you know, but I told my staff is that right now, something I didn't do a lot when I was in an entry-level position as a younger housing professional. I wasn't attending the staff council meetings. I wasn't always taking advantage of the town hall meetings. And so our institution recently has had an increase. They have the general schedule, but because of everything that's been going on, we've had some increases, you know, where the money people have attended, are at present at staff council, where our last staff council meeting, the president was at, because we realize that that stuff affects us, but it's so far up, we feel like it doesn't affect us. And to be better equipped with the types of questions to ask, and those are perfect moments for you in your entry level, you know, young professional or platform to be able to get in front of those who matter, because sometimes it's not your director. Sometimes it's not your AVP, but how often are you would have an audience with the board of trustees or, you know, the CFO or the president of the university or the provost, like the folks who at the end of the day, those are the folks whose decision opinion is going to move the needle. And so making sure that you're positioning yourself to be in those spaces. I'm doing that now because now it made more sense. And I reflect on that was such a missed opportunity that I could have had, you know, as a younger professional, especially to understand how the machine works. Because being in those spaces, you get to also hear some of the thoughts and opinions of the faculty and what they're thinking and the issues that they're dealing with, because that can expand your argument and for advocating for what you want to see happen when it comes to change. Being in those spaces, and that's such a missed opportunity, because maybe your question at that town hall, they do listen and they take that stuff back, but it could be your question that could make the change to be able to move your institution forward.
That's great. That's great. I want to move to LaToya. We hadn't heard from LaToya in a minute, so I want to move it over to you, LaToya. And I want to ask you this question, moving to number 4. Again, we're going to get to the question too. But number 4, what can leadership do? LaToya, what can leadership do? Because I think at the end of the day, as Kiana said so wonderfully, is leadership is important. Leadership makes decisions. And there may be some people on here today that may be in really prominent leadership positions. If they're not, let us forward this call to them or share the information with them, whatever is most easiest for you. But I want to ask you, LaToya, what can leadership do? And we're dealing with leadership, presidents, vice presidents, directors, and even when we talked about in our meeting, HR leaders on campus. But LaToya, what can leaders do in order to help with this cause?
So first, when taking action, don't just take performative action. So first, commit to making change, commit to being the difference. So first, that starts with being in the room with the people who have the complaints, wherever you see those challenges or issues, asking a question and you've been a leader so long, you may forget how to do this, but let go for a moment. And for that moment, be the follower, because in that moment, you're not the expert in that moment. So getting the information, asking your audience, what do they need? Then making actionable steps with a timeline. So don't just say, hey, you know, that's a great idea, we should make those changes, and then do performative things, painting Black Lives Matter on the sidewalk when students are saying, hey, we need more funding, we want to have these activities. Why aren't our residence halls being fixed in the area where there are mostly students of color? Or we have complaints against this faculty member who has been saying problematic things. The performance is cute, but you need to listen to what students are saying and listen to them, because they're paying your salary. Quite literally, they're paying your salary. Without those students, you are irrelevant. Also listening to your staff, your faculty and staff, who are bringing those things as well. So for that moment, understanding that you are not the expert in the room, and soliciting those who are experts and taking the action that they suggest. So for that moment, understanding that a leader, they're not always the person who is taking that charge. Your part in that moment is asking the question and sitting back and listening. And don't get offended. It's not about you in that moment. It's about the students who are there speaking to you. It's about your faculty, your staff of color that's speaking to you. It's about them in that moment. It's not about you. Don't make them feel guilty or even have to console you in the process of your emotions, often referred to as white tears. Don't make them have to console you in that moment, again, because it's not about you. So first, taking the moment to listen, making actionable plans, and then letting someone else take charge, because in that moment, you are then the follower.
That's great. That's great. Tish, I know you had something to say as well.
I don't know if y'all ready. I don't know.
You ready? Come on, Dr. Shay, let it know. We ready. Come on, TR.
I want it all.
This what I'm gonna say. Hold on. In February, I gave a talk at National Greek Leadership Association. I want to say this real quick, Josh. When you talked about your frat brother at Kent State,
yep.
Right, that thing is real. I want everybody to know, as far as we have come now, these kinds of firsts are still happening. Jackie Robinsons are still happening in 2020. I spoke at the University of Miami, the Hurricanes, $85,000 a year tuition to go to Miami for their Greek New Initiate Leadership Institute 5 years ago in 2015. Do you know they had that program for 19 years? And I was the first person of color that ever spoke at that conference. 19 years. And there were Greeks there of all councils, white, black, everything. So we have to think about we have to be mindful of who's on our campus and who's in the rooms. Let me say this. Your question was, what can leadership do? Right, Josh? That was your question, right? Any real true hip hop fans in the building? Somebody put in the chat box right now the year that Lauryn Hill's most amazing album of her life came out. What was the title and when did it come out? All right, Deanna. That's it. 1998. It was the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Well, Lauryn Hill, we've heard these words now since the COVID, right? Pivot, reimagine. You know, we've heard all these things. We've heard all these words of how we need to shift things now, right? Well, what leadership needs to do, and I'm gonna say black, white, and otherwise, you need to understand and realize that you have been miseducated. And Lauryn got that. Come on, scholars in the building. Where did Lauryn get it from and what year? Put it in the box right now. Where did she get it from and in what year? Somebody break it down for me. I ain't gonna talk till it's in the box. What year and who did she get it from? The word miseducation. Because
I got this one, y'all.
Thank you. Okay, Kareem. Okay, Kareem. Okay.
Tania, go. Yeah.
Marcellus. Okay, my co-panelist here. So if Woodson was saying it in 33, right? If Woodson was saying it in 33, Lauren Hill was talking about it in another context, though. We need to re-educate ourselves because the American education system has miseducated all of us. And so we have to understand that the education we have received is only partial of the entire narrative. When I gave the talk in February at NGLA, we talked about inclusion and inclusiveness. We can't say, oh, you don't include us if we don't demand to be included. So the coin is two-sided. You have to want to be included, but you have to show up to be included.
And do the work.
And do the work.
And do the work.
And keep showing up.
And keep
so
showing
up. Leadership has to say, we need to, listen, unlearn what we've learned, and then re-educate ourselves on what the complete Black people, we need to take control of our own narrative. Somebody, or Agent Orange, I just saw it. I keep watching the news. Agent Orange just said, Black people, you need to go learn your own Black history to pull yourselves up by your own bootstraps. Like, he just released a statement right now. Are you going to let other people tell us about our own narrative? We need to take control of our narrative ourselves. So that applies with leadership, that applies with people who influence leadership, that applies with students, that applies on every level, that we have to unlearn and then re-educate ourselves on the past, present, and future, on the history, on the DEI&A, on everything that this book stands for, which is why it's out. And Josh, when I was putting on my makeup earlier today, I said, we about to have a blackout too. It's gotta be a blackout too.
Real quick, you set me up, and so I'm gonna go. Let me just say this real quick. Wait, let me say this real quick. We're gonna have a part 2. So for all you that registered, you're gonna get an email from us, a recap, and we're gonna hopefully register again. So we're gonna do a part 2. All these questions we're gonna answer, I promise you. But we have about 9 minutes left, and I want to say something, but I'm gonna go. I gotta go with the flow. My great friend Dr. Shirley brought this up, and I thought it was so powerful that he talked about legacy, and he said, "What is your legacy gonna be for your Black students on your campus?" And so for these last 9 minutes, if they want to stay after, I'll stay 15 minutes over to answer questions. We'll just do a Q&A. Again, we're gonna have a part 2, so we're coming back again. But real quick. If you're there listening to me right now, if you could put in the chat box, and I want you to think about this real quick, what legacy are you going to leave for your Black students? In your position, the place where you're at right now, what is your legacy? I have a book coming out, and it's called Red Leadership. And in the book, I talk about developing culturally diverse leaders of the younger generation. And one of the concepts I talk about is, what is your leadership legacy? What are you leaving behind? What are you creating for the future generations? And I want you to think about that, because the goal again with this is not just to talk and not just to dialogue, but it's to keep us accountable. It's to keep us pushing forward, because there's so many students, there's so many professionals that we have to take our part and do our part to make an impact. And so I'm gonna start with you, Allison, and we'll start going down the line about your legacy. But for those that are watching right now, if you can just tell us what your legacy is, what is it that you plan to leave? And I'm gonna start with Allison. She can share her legacy. We'll go all the way across on my screen, and then we're gonna answer questions afterwards as well. So I'm gonna start with you, Allison. What's your legacy?
Okay, so one, Josh threw me on the spot, but I'm going to tie one of the questions into my answer. It was about, as an entry-level or mid-level professional, how do you advocate for equitable salaries for Black staff and faculty successfully? I'm a little green in higher age, so I need real action steps, because I just went through part of this. One is, I want to make space for other black people, but beyond me, I'm the only Black person who ever been in my particular role, things like that. And I'm the only Black person when I walk into a lot of rooms. So I work at our Board of Regents for the state, and I work on substance use prevention for our state. One of the things is, when we hear about the opioid crisis, we only hear about white people's stories highlighted. But if you look at the data, it's actually statistically rising faster in Black communities. And so for me, that's advocating the same amount of resources that LSU gets, our other 4 years gets, Southern University gets, Dillard University gets, Grambling State University gets, Xavier University gets, Southern Shreveport, Southern New Orleans, being sure that everybody across the table gets treated fairly and equitably in that particular resource, advocating that I left a legacy of advocating for everybody equally across the board and making sure that all of our HBCUs and those included, I'm a proud of Southern University, being sure that we advocate HBCU made all day, one Hillman. But the other thing is that one, for me, being able that when I hire people or I'm doing projects, I'm working with vendors, being sure that I treat them fairly and equitably the same. I don't try, like Keon said, I don't go for the discount. I don't. When I have money to pay speakers and things like that, I'm paying you. So if I ever call you, please answer. So one of those things is that the question about salary, if you're at a public institution, look up those salaries. They are public documents. Like I've had a friend who had another university. She had somebody for you the documents because she couldn't find them for her campus. Look up those documents. I also, as a personal thing for me, I just went through a salary negotiation for myself. I pulled every single salary for everybody in the position that I wanted. That I just changed positions on July 1, but being able to, one, because you don't see a lot of salary clarity around that, make sure that you do the research and looking up, not just for your institution, but comparable institutions near you, similar state size, things like that, and looking up those public institutions to see what those numbers are, because sometimes they're not easy to find. But again, wrapping that up, add that I advocated fairly for everybody that looks like me across the board.
That's awesome. And I see people putting the legacy in there. Thank you so much. Keep posting. That was amazing, Allison, by the way. Dr. Smith, excuse me. That was amazing. Dr. Shirley, it's on you. I'm just going by my screen, so.
So my legacy, twofold. And I'm going to try not to get emotional because I think about legacy a lot, but part of my legacy is on this Zoom call now. I've seen a few of my former students who are now student affairs professionals on this call. My first boss ever in higher ed, my higher ed pops, Dr. Robert Dodson, just defended his dissertation, is on this call. My legacy is to show individuals that what they do and who they are can manifest themselves. I was the first ever Black director for Fraternity and Sorority Life at Texas A&M University Commerce. The first ever Black director for Fraternity and Sorority Life at the University of Cincinnati. The first ever assistant dean for sorority and fraternity life at Indiana University. The first ever Black director for Fraternity and Sorority Life at the University of North Texas. My 4 last consistent jobs, I have been the first Black person in that job. And I think back to when I didn't even consider myself director level material. And I want my legacy to be to my students, to my colleagues, that if a little Black boy from Dallas, Texas can do it, y'all can do it too. Don't let anybody tell you. I posted this on my Facebook a year ago and it came back on my Facebook memories. And I reposted it a couple of days ago. Don't ever let anybody, how many of y'all have seen The Incredibles? The first movie, the first Incredibles movie. I posted, don't let anybody ever tell you what you can or cannot do. Jack's mama told everybody he didn't have any powers and he ended up being the most powerful, incredible of them all. Don't let someone tell you what your superpowers are. Have the courage to know for yourself what your powers are. Who knew that a little Black boy from Dallas, Texas was going to be an assistant dean at Indiana University over one of the largest fraternity and sorority life communities in the nation? 8,000 students, 74 chapters. Who knew that? And so don't tell yourself no. If they're gonna reject you, they're gonna reject you, but don't reject yourself. And so my legacy, if I could just sum it all up and put it in a pretty bow, is have that courage to believe in your superpowers, and be dope in that. Live in that. Because once you gone, they're going to either say you didn't take the chance or you took the chance and you won.
It's powerful, brother. It's powerful. That's what I'm talking about. Awesome, man. Latoya. That's a big one to follow right there.
I don't know how I'm gonna follow that. Like,
you got it, sis, because you are a queen and you got this.
Tania said, "Pass the plate, pass the plate." What's your cash app? What's your cash app, Dr. Shirley? What's your cash app?
So a lot like Dr. Shirley, my legacy that I wish to leave is showing people that they can do it. So I've created a company called Dream, Create, Love, DCL. And what we do is we make sure that people first, that they know they can dream, teach people how to dream. So imagine who you are, what can you do, the biggest, the broadest, with no limitations. Then we connect people with that. So how can you imagine who you are, the most amazing version of yourself, and then connecting to that and loving every step of the way. Because we fall, we stumble, we trip, and in that process, we beat ourselves up, but we don't consider all the things and we don't love ourselves in that process. And I'm a first generation college graduate in my family. So my mother, she didn't graduate college. My father, he didn't graduate college. All of them, they tried, but financial things stopped them. Society stopped them. I'm the first one. I am the first. And that shouldn't have been the case. So what did I do for myself? I said, well, first generation students, they need to be able to have tools to get through that. So I wrote a book, The College Cheat Sheet, to help connect students with what are the things that they need to know in order to not only persist through college, but how do they successfully connect themselves with the next phase of their life, whether that be graduate school, whether that be jumping into their career field, but how do you connect that to that area? But then also, as I began to progress a little bit more, I said, all right, so what are some of the things that students need, not just those tools, but we need to fix some of the systemic items as well. So working within systems to change policies so that students don't have to fight as hard to figure it out. So right now, this is a part of my legacy. So I've created a first-year generation program at Methodist University where there's a co-curricular program that helps students, they help students to persist. I've written that book and I would like to continue with that. So helping institutions and students reach their ultimate goal. So dreaming, creating, and loving themselves through the entire process.
Amazing. Awesome. Awesome. Woo. Yep. Snap, snap. Marcellus.
All right, y'all. So I know we were kind of out of time, so I'm just going to leave it with a sentence or two. And so I actually wrote down what I want my legacy to be. And so I want my legacy to be, I lifted up myself, I lifted up my students, I lifted up my Black students, I lifted up my Black colleagues, I made this place better, fairer, safer, and more accessible for my Black people. So that's what I want my legacy to be.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Come on. T.I.
I'm just thankful. I'm thankful to just be a little fly on the wall in the room, and that you all are an extension of my village. Zach, the doors of the church, you done opened them up. I just want you to know. And I was like, so he said it's gonna tear up. I was like, I'm gonna tear up.
Kiana, you can sing, so you can give us a song right now. Take us, with the worship on. You know what I'm saying? We can have church right here, Because
I have watched your career and your brother's career. And so, not to fangirl. So when this come to fruition, because I don't fangirl around a lot of people. So not at all. And so, to be in awe, I'm like, Zach Shirley is my real friend. He's just not my friend in my head anymore.
Real
my real friend. And, all of these things. So I guess my legacy, and that's something that I reflect about often, the idea that BLKSAP, and to know me is to know, I just leave, I'm good backstage. I'm a good number two. I like to keep a low profile, and my friends laugh when, I say that, because it's not me aspiring to have some type of title, and so, but favor puts me in positions where sometimes I may not also want to be out front, but then I'm pushed to be out front. And so not to be not letting humility, get confused with meekness or weakness. It's not that. I know that I am a worker bee, and I know that those are other folks that shine, but I'm gonna shoot my shot. And when I am called to be able to stand up and be in the presence. So I had to write my thoughts down too. There is no need to build a legacy if you don't plan to groom successors. And the reason that we're all here is because I had a conversation with 4 grad students at a social, at a conference, when back in that time, everything was a hashtag. And the question was, so you want people to know you're here, why? And you want them to know what you're learning, what is that going to do? And so how are you going to stand out? And we created the hashtag. We came up with a couple of different options, searched it out online. And I said, you know what? We're going to shorten it to Black. People understand BLK. They'll know what that means. And then SAP. And to know that it has evolved into unifying Black voices to go into a student affairs space, to shut it down for a day, to then be the catalyst to move forward, to create a book, to then create the space that we are still cycling, helping people. Like, I know I am that person to be a connector, and that is my legacy, to make sure that I am being a connector and also helping groom successors, because it may not be me always in this space forever. Making sure that people that you pull up, because you can't pull up everybody, but you need to be pulling people with you, that they're trained, equipped, and ready. Because there's no point in advocating for Black voices to be at the table if you are not trained, equipped, and ready. I am all about, because I'm a hiring manager, I'm a recruiter, but I'm going to hire the best person for the job. And I would love for that person to be a Black, Indigenous person of color, or a Black person to be in that space, but I need you to be ready. And so what can I do to pour into you to make sure that you're ready and that you're able and that you're willing to do the job and not just be with a title, because we aspire to be so many of the who's who, because we can name them, right? And we know those names, they easily roll off our tongues. But then what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it once you're in the seat? Be better than me. That is my legacy. I make a lot of mistakes every day, all the time, and I try to live honestly. I try to own them when I can. I try to, okay, I got popped on the hand, own it. Like, let's do it. I may not always have it together, but I'm striving every day to be great, and using that as the example of, I might not be great every day, but hopefully when you leave my presence, when you leave, that chapter closes on our relationship, that I left you with something that's going to carry you on into your next amazing. Don't just wish, but do. And so knowing that from my examples, that you're just not wishing. With my village right now, we're talking about, okay, we do a lot of ministry stuff for free. BLKSAP, nobody's paying us, but y'all definitely treat me in the care like it's our full-time job up in our gym. And we appreciate it. It is a 24/7 everyday kind of job. But then how are we moving this forward? Where are some lucrative opportunities, maybe not only for our own pockets, but then how to be able to push some other people forward? And from the sales of this book, we're going to be able to pay for someone's membership. We're going to be able to pay for someone's conference so that they can have that experience to be trained, equipped, and ready when they are able to be called upon to be able to interview and get the job. And learn from your mistakes, like learning from my mistakes and following in my path, like those who follow me and that are around me are in that space, that you're paying attention, you're lifting me up, you're paying attention when I stumble, because those are learning moments, and I'm sharing those as well, and so that's what I hope to do with my legacy, that I am setting it up in a way that it's constantly grooming successors to be able to pay it forward.
Love it. Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. I hope y'all wrote y'all notes, because that was powerful. That was awesome. Tish. Tish, I know so many powerful things. Wow.
When I began my doctoral program, I thought I was well versed in Black history. I was, as a Black woman, a budding scholar, I was embarrassed by the vast depth and breadth of Black history that I did not know when I thought I was already well versed in it. And so I am quite emotional, as I have recently suffered deep loss with my dear loving mother. And so I am asking myself that question, Josh. My father passed on ABD, getting his doctorate in ministry, his DMin. My mother as a master teacher of 43 years. And I pray that the leadership legacy that I leave is that people know that Tisha Lene Norman was an educator of people. I have taught everything from K to 12, but my ultimate goal is to continue to teach and educate the masses on and in every sector that I could possibly control. The amalgamation of Blackness, Black culture, Black history and tradition, the amalgamation of education, liberal arts, and the amalgamation of pride and self-assuredness is the intersection, the amalgamation of where I would want my career and my life's work to personify. And so if I can pull from both of my parents who were educators and speakers and changers and information imparters, if that's a word, I would say I want my leadership legacy to be known as one who didn't just walk in a room, but one that entered a room. To be one that took pride in their appearance, their language, their persona, their conversation, and the message that hopefully left you better than when you were before you met me. So it is a quote that I made up years ago, and I'll end it with this. I am going to do something in this lifetime that had I never been born, it would have never happened. And so I would want that leadership legacy to be imparted into those that I come in contact with. And I pray God continues to allow me to speak in front of the masses to continue to get these kinds of leadership legacy opportunities out there to the world. You know I love you, Josh, and everybody on this call, y'all all my first cousins right now. I don't know if y'all
I'm gonna get ready to close out and I'm gonna give my thoughts, but I did want to say this, Tish, and I want to say it now because I don't want to forget it. For those who know me, I also do preaching, but I just got a word and I have to share it with you now. But I see you consulting presidents. You said you've done all education, but I see you consulting presidents and executives in high places. And I just want you to know that there's some doors in some, I hear corporations and major organizations. I even see nonprofits. I see nonprofits. There's some major doors, some nonprofits with some profile leaders that you're going to consult. And so I don't know if you've started doing your consulting yet, if you even started a blueprint, but I literally see nonprofits and I see you consulting on a higher level. And I just wanted to share that with you before I go forward. So I want to share that with you. Yeah, they keep saying nonprofit. I keep hearing that. But as I get ready to close, first of all, this was an amazing session. It was just amazing. There's so many things that I could say, but there's so many things in my life. But I think when I look back on my life, there's been moments where I was ready to give up. There's been moments where I was able to throw in the towel. There's been moments where I questioned myself. And to be honest with you, the motivation wasn't the money. The motivation wasn't a title. The motivation wasn't a position. The motivation was that there's something in me to give to other people to help them get where they have to go. And so every day I wake up, no matter what I have, no matter what success I have, no matter how much money I have, at the end of the day, what matters most is what am I doing to impact other people? My motivation is people. My motivation is to empower people. My motivation is to lift people up. When I'm in the bed, I don't feel like getting up on a plane, it's people. When I don't feel like giving a speech, it's people. And to bring it all together, I think the popular story in the Bible is called the book of Joshua, and which is my name. And the name is Yeshua, one who brings the salvation. But if you read the story, you'll find that Joshua took the children of Israel into the promised land. And what's kind of interesting about this question is actually just came clear to me right now that I believe my legacy is to help people get into their promise, get into that which they were destined to be. And so that's what excites me, to see people reaching their fullest potential and to see people reaching their destiny. And I'm just excited about this because not only do we have incredible people, not only do we have incredible authors, but I just think this is a powerful session. This is a powerful movement. And we're definitely going to do a part 2. We're definitely going to answer all these questions in the chat. We'll be able to have the chats as well. We want to thank y'all all so much for supporting. Again, most importantly, support BLKSAP. Support the Facebook. Make Kiana create a nonprofit organization so she can get more money and more dollars and all that good stuff. Support everyone on the phone call. Support all the authors. And also support the people on your campus. You know, support your Black students, support your Black people, support the people where you're at. And I just believe with all my heart that we come from a great ancestry. And I often tell people, don't forget where you came from, because what we have come from, I mean, we've come from so much stuff. We've always risen. So whatever you got to know, if you ever feel doubt, go back to your history, go back to your ancestry, go back to where you came from. And if they came through it, that same blood is alive in you and enable you to do it as well. So I want to thank you all so much. It was an honor. It was a pleasure. We'll be back for part 2. Check your emails. Hopefully everybody agrees to do that. We'll be back for part 2. There will be a recording as well if you want to share. I want to thank everyone again. Thank everyone so much. You all were awesome. And again, we'll be back for part 2, and we'll answer your questions, all these questions in part 2 as well. Thank y'all so much. And it was awesome, y'all. I'm out.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Blackout week. Blackout.
Thank you all.
Yes, definitely follow BLKSAP on Twitter as well. We definitely want to get our Twitter followers up. And then shout out to Nikhil. Nikhil has been also answering questions within the BLKSAP group. We're going to be working to answer, admit people, because we know that a lot of people who may not have known about BLKSAP are requesting. And so answer all the questions that we asked. Otherwise, you won't get in. Follow directions. Train, equip, rise up. All right. Love you.
Ready.